reacting to your Overwatch hot takes. Send me your own hot take. The link to my Discord is in the description below. Okay, so I have a couple to get through today. I am just going to go ahead. I'm going to look at the hot take itself. There was a lot of discussion about some. I'm just going to look at the hot take for these. So the link to my description is in the Twitch chat as well. You can get to my Discord in my Twitch description. Anyways, okay. OW1CC is extremely sensationalized. Okay, let me see what they say. I'm going to read this whole thing and we'll talk about it. Aside from hack and freeze, every other CC ability in Overwatch was relatively short, on an ultimate, or conditional. These are all ability types that are considered okay in other MOBAs, in other MOBA shooters, and even in non-MOBA shooters such as Valorant, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, and even the brainless arcade haven of Call of Duty. Wow, shots fired, I guess. Overall, I think complaining about CC became a trend in the community, like the Samito community, constantly crying for 6v6. I'm gonna refrain from saying anything about other people's communities, so I'm just gonna ignore that part. But I do think there were issues with Overwatch 1 CC. I would have implemented a lot damage limit, something like 30 damage until they are forced out of the CC, as well as CC chain protection. So for example, stun the tank, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer couldn't work anymore as they would break the damage limit after the first shot. With these ideas in place, I think Overwatch 1 CC would have been just fine, but the Overwatch community is extremely dogmatic in hating all CC. For God's sake, people whine and whine and whine about a Reese's Spear. The Overwatch community has decided the only acceptable option is to not have any CC. When designed correctly, it is very healthy. Sorry this turned long. I didn't mean to do this. It wasn't that long. Let's go through each individual thing. So aside from hack and freeze, every other CC ability in Overwatch was relatively short. That's true, right? So Brig stun, cast stun, right? Like the instant stuns were relatively short. Hack and freeze were a little different. I do think freeze needed to go away, and I do think hack needed to be toned down. But the other CCs, I kind of agree, right? They weren't really that bad on their own. It was the chaining of them that was the problem. And hard CC, like the full stuns, were the issue overall, right? They are considered okay in other MOBAs. Now, I'm not going to compare to other games because Overwatch is very unique as it is an FPS. And there are other FPS that have it, such as Valorant. But I will say, Valorant is kind of going through the same life cycle as Overwatch. Of like, now they're in the years of visual clutter and like base CC chaining. It's not really CC, it's like blinds and smokes and everything, which are effectively the same for like how Valorant works. And they're kind of going through like maybe this is like a little overboard, right? So I'm not really going to compare it to other things, but I do think stuns and hacks and everything, or stuns in general, CC, it's a core of Overwatch. In fact, many of them are like where you make plays, and it's very satisfying to hit stuns and everything, so they should exist, right? I do think there are issues with Overwatch 1 CC. Alright, I would have implemented a lot damage limit, something like 30 damage until they are forced out of the CC. Oh, so they take 30 damage and now they're no longer CC'd in any way. That's definitely something, but that doesn't stop burst damage. Like, let's say you got Mei frozen, right? And then you get headshot by Mei. You're sure you can move afterwards, but you're dead. You know what I mean? Like, you're just dead now. As well as CC chain protection. So, for example, stun the tank, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer wouldn't work anymore as they would break the damage limit after the first shot. I feel like a decent solution. So, the reason why chain, like what's it called? A CC protection, honestly, like a chain protection, I think would feel bad for the people trying to do like stunning, because then like there's just this arbitrary amount of time where the stuns just don't work, and it's like I'm not communicating with my team all the time, so I didn't realize that, you know, let's say this guy got hindered, and then I hammered down, and now my ultimate has been completely negated because I just didn't realize this guy was stunned already. I feel like that could not work very well. I think chain CC, it was annoying, but the reason it was annoying is you couldn't do anything and you died, right? Those were the two annoying things, right? I think a good middle ground solution to this is like, what if you had like super damage reduction while you were CC'd, right? So the CC is your not as encouraged to chain CC because it's going to be way harder to kill you. Like, a lot harder to kill you. I'm saying, like, maybe 80% damage reduction. It'd be a lot harder to kill you. And then, just because it's so hard, it's like, you want to focus your CC more on finding good value out of it, out of cancels and everything like that. Not just stopping you and blowing you up. It's more of like playing into the fun parts of like counterplaying with CC rather than like, okay. And like, if you stop somebody, like, again, you said a lot of CC abilities are really short. So in that time, if you only hit them with one CC ability, sure, in the time that they're stunned, they're not going to take a lot of damage. But now they're like stuck in your backline. They don't have their mobility tool anymore. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, they're still going to, it still gets the job done. It just specifically stops chain CCing from being nearly as effective, right? I feel like that would be like a way better solution to do it, right? I would say probably don't bring freeze back. Probably don't bring, old hack back. But if they wanted to bring those things back, that could also make them feel better overall. So that's kind of what I would do. Honestly, you've inspired me because I've never really thought about this before. But I think just having like this large damage reduction while you're getting CC'd will make the CC abilities feel good to use still, while also alleviating a lot of the issues it has. Now, I think that's with hard CC, because like if you're just getting slowed, you don't want to have all this damage reduction, right? So there's kind of like a fine line, but I feel like that's kind of like a good middle ground. With all these ideas, CC would have been fine, but the Overwatch community is extremely dogmatic and hating all of CC. That is true. That is also because the most effective strategies in Overwatch 1 were just like chain CCing. You know what I mean? It was again very hard to counterplay that in Overwatch 1. It was possible, but hard. Same thing in Overwatch 2, right? God's sake, people whine and whine and whine about Orisa Spear. I don't know why people complain about Ori Spear so much. It's like, she's a tank. Again, like, they moved most CCs to tanks and supports, right? So that most of the CC is gone from the DPS category, or at least toned down a lot in the DPS category. So, yeah, I don't understand why people complain about Ori Spear either. Doesn't really make as much sense to me. If you got hit by a spear because you did an ult, she hit a nasty shot on you. I know it's big, but like still, you shouldn't have been, you know what I mean? It shouldn't have been an option for you to get hit by that. So, only acceptable option. Again, like, I feel like this is kind of like an old idea of CC. I don't think people are as mad about CC anymore, but it's also probably because they haven't been living with it as much. So they probably don't care as much either. So, I agree with you. I think Overwatch CC was hated on too much. It was overblown, I won't lie, but I feel like they hated on it too much. I feel like there are some kind of solutions that we could put in place to figure out how to bring some CC back, because some of the characters just kind of lost a lot of their identity because of the CC being gone. Like, if Brig could have her actual stun back, like, oh my god, right? Oh my god, if Brig could have stun back. If Mei could have some kind of mini game back again as well with her primary, that'd be great. So I don't think this is that hot of a take. Next one. This one is from my friend Langston here. He says, there will never be a different DPS meta unless significant changes are made. Since Overwatch 2 exited beta, Sojourn has always been meta. I'd like to see a different DPS meta other than her, but it will likely never happen ever again unless the character is fundamentally changed. Whoa. Tracer Sojourn is consistently the meta, and while other DPS are able to work or even considered strong, Tracer Sojourn has been the best for all of Overwatch 2. I think Tracer is healthy and should be top tier, and I think most players agree with that. And I just miss when DPS had some more variety before it was 99% pick rate Sojourn and higher ranks in Play. I don't know the actual stat on that. And when a comp doesn't have Sojourn, it's because the whole comp is built around a niche purpose that allows something else to work, which is often just beat out by the hard meta comps anyways. Got a bit long-winded TLDR. I miss more variety and it won't happen unless Blizzard change Sojourn. I don't think this is a problem with Sojourn. I don't think so. I think this is a problem nowadays. Yes, Sojourn has been really big, but the DPS, the general changes of Season 9 were supposed to change this, right? It's the DPS passive that has kept Sojourn and Tracer as dominant as they are. They are the two best characters that benefit from the DPS passive. just hands down, right? There's really nothing else to be said. I think the DPS passive has exacerbated this issue. There was definitely more variety beforehand, and there's good variety now in this current meta, but I think that definitely made everything worse. I don't think this is where Langston and I have disagreed. I don't think Tracer is or Sojourn is fundamentally flawed character. I just think that her rail, there's too much in rail and not enough in the rest of her kit. So she is a good all-rounder, but she is just very powerful. I think her numbers just need to come down, and I think she needs to be doing less damage with rail. She has too much big burst damage. She can still basically effectively one-shot people with the right conditions more often than you would want her to. I just think that I don't think Sojourn is designed poorly. In fact, I feel like the Sojourn's design is very, very good. Very high-skilled character, lots of variety, has clearly defined weaknesses. She's just a little overtuned, right? That's what I think. So I don't think Sojourn needs to fundamentally change, right? Tracer is healthy and should be a top-tier Grant. I agree with that 100%. Another character like Sojourn, I think Tracer is just perfect. But yes, Sojourn, it is annoying to see not a variety of DPS. But also, this is my hot take. I think a lot of DPS are boring. They're boring. They're one-dimensional. They aren't interesting to watch or to play as. They are frustrating, you know? Reaper, Sim, Junkrat, Hanzo, Sombra. There's plenty. Just plenty of characters that I just don't really like very much in the DPS role. There's a lot of the DPS role is the characters that have the most simplistic kits. And that's true, right? Think about Cassidy. He just be shooting. Cassidy just be shooting. That's his thing, right? A lot of DPS characters are simple. Nothing wrong with being simple, but a lot of characters just don't have layers that they should. And that's why they just aren't played as much in Overwatch, because Overwatch 2 requires more variety, more adaptability, and a lot of them just don't have that, right? Sojourn and Tracer do have that. And that's kind of why they are playable. So I don't think that's a fundamental problem with Sojourn per se. I think that's a fundamental problem with the other characters that have bad designs. Alright? That's what I think. Roast me all you want in the comments section, but that is my 2 cents on that issue. Sojourn's design is so good that they want to make her viable in every comp. I feel like the idea for Overwatch 2 was to make more characters viable more places, right? More often. Make it so that you could play characters alone and not have to be super much like, oh god, like I don't have the exact characters to make this character work. There are definitely things that are like that in Overwatch 2 still. Ryan doesn't work without Lucio Bap and like Mei or something like, or Brawl DPS. But like Sojourn Kiri, much more versatile, much more usable everywhere. And that's like, I think that since their kits they have a lot to them and they're versatile, but there's also a lot of skill involved, that is a good thing. But it is overbearing, right? That the other characters were left behind. I don't think the problem is with the characters that are good and that have this design philosophy. I feel like the problem's with the characters that we've left behind. And getting them back up to speed is a very, very long task that the developers, I don't think, have the resources to do properly. And that's not like a diss on them. I'm just saying, like, it takes a very long time to get this stuff done. And they don't have that time to work with the cycle that they need to keep up. Again, not a slight on the developers. Unfortunate situation of Overwatch 2. Okay. Next one. Scalding hot take about auto-aim. Did I click it? Oh, no, I need to click the thread. There we go. Okay. This one is a short one. Nice and short. Scalding hot take about auto-aim. The scalding take is auto-aim abilities like Winston and Moira is very healthy when done right, and we should have a DPS that focuses on it. When done right, these heroes require macro skill rather than micro skill and provide reliable damage against fast foes. We should have a DPS focused on close-ranged auto-lock damage, making their skill being about getting close without dying. I will say Moira does too much unconditional damage, and I think she should have some tweaks to make her earn that M1 suck damage. Maybe make her heals empower the suck, and her suck gives back healing to encourage her ebb and flow between life and death better. Auto-aim abilities have a place. That's true. I agree with this wholeheartedly. When you think about other games, like, there's a philosophy in, like, MOBAs that guaranteed damage is, like, part of the balance of characters, right? There are characters that auto-aim. The second they use their ability, that is just, they're guaranteed to take damage, right? That is part of it. It's probably not a very powerful ability, but it is something that is, like, you know when you get close to that character, you're going to take damage, and that's just how you have to play against it, right? Same thing here, right? When Winston gets close to you, you know he's going to be hitting his Tesla cannon the entire time. When Moira is next to you, you know she's going to be hitting the M1 the entire time, right? That is not a bad thing. The difference between these two characters is that Winston is much more about the macro, and he has a lot of weaknesses and a lot of strengths outside of Tesla Cannon, right? Tesla Cannon is not very powerful on its own. It's the rest of his kit that makes him very powerful, right? So it's fine that Tesla Cannon has just like a guaranteed damage, but it's very low, right? Moira, on the other hand, her decision-making and her depth of character is way lower than Winston's. And so she has more damage and more power in that ability, and it's more frustrating overall. The character doesn't have much else to her other than that. So there's nothing to make up for that deficit, right? So if they were to introduce a DPS like this, most of their power would need to come from a skill shot ability on, or like a skill shot on an ability or something else on an ability. Their DPS, like, you know, their M1 auto-aim or whatever auto-aim thing that they have, cannot be very powerful. It needs to do other things, right? It needs to exist as an addition to the very skillful things that they are doing, right? That's what Winston is like. That is not what Moira is like. So I agree with you. I think auto-aim abilities can be healthy and can be a very good part of the design of characters. It is just much harder to get right in an FPS when mechanical skill and all that other skill is, or basically it's really more like mechanical aim skill is much more, takes precedent over that kind of stuff. Again, I think it can be done right. I feel like it's very hard to do right. But not, honestly, in my opinion, not that hot of a take. And then my last one here, sorry, hold on. I missed one. I have two more because Roman just sent me one. Thank you, Roman. Let's go to the lukewarm Symmetra take, okay? Same person, the absolute best Bilbo Eva. I don't know what that means. Lukewarm take. Symmetra is in an odd spot because Blizzard hasn't actually swapped her from her support role to DPS formally. This puts her in this odd high-utility support DPS that doesn't provide enough utility nor damage to be useful. They should either focus on her utility and rework her into a support role, or keep her DPS and rework her utility to be more aggressively minded IMO. Yeah, Sim is weird because I don't feel like Sim's kit meshes completely well together like it should. She has elements from her old designs, and she's got this new stuff. She's kind of stitched together into the DPS role. She kind of works like an off tank, where she has a really high DPS pressure that, like, once it's built up, and she sits on her tank, it's really hard to get close to the other tank. But it doesn't really work like that a lot of the time, and she just also has, like, that spam, the orbs that don't work for me either. Teleporter, I think, doesn't work like they want it to, and it is like high utility, but why does a DPS kind of have that ability, right? When the focus is team play, you know what I mean? It doesn't make a lot of sense as much. I think she does need a rework. Either way, keep her a DPS, make her a support, doesn't matter. I don't think this is the hottest take ever, and I think you agree with that too. They just need to hone her in a little more. I think so. Okay. And then a quick one. Never mind, this is not a quick one. I thought this was going to be a quick one. This is my friend Roman, Chocolate the Bear. He's in chat right now. He just sent this to me. They need to remove Widowmaker. She gets insta kills, or sorry, getting insta kills in this game feels terrible. The kills aren't random, but they can feel seemingly random because they aren't consistent. She doesn't deal constant damage, so unless she is completely winning the fight for your team, she feels completely useless, which makes her not just really unfun to play against, but also, or not unfun to play as, but as against. Okay, sorry. The initial Widowmaker rework design just ended up becoming Ashe, so that OW devs could meet their quota of making a new character. So now I don't even know how they could rework her without copying an Ashe-style character. Just kill her with fire at this point. Runs every lobby she is in instantly. The biggest problem with Widow is that since her one-shot is up so consistently and the conditions to get the one-shot are so easy, that she commands lobbies. You're right. You have to completely change your playstyle against a Widowmaker, right? It's not just generally play cover. It is you cannot go into the open for any reason whatsoever because Widow could be there, right? It requires too much of a Herculean effort as a team to effectively deal with a Widowmaker. And yes, I know people are always complaining that it's like she has so many counters, she has so many weaknesses. But I would much rather play against characters that are more powerful than play against a Widow because they don't change how drastically you have to play the game, right? Removing Widowmaker, I don't think Blizzard will ever remove a character, although in the beginning of the game in 2016 they said they were open to the idea. I agree with you. I think Widowmaker needs to be shot somehow. Yeah, because it's just really frustrating and I don't think it's a healthy design. And she either needs a complete overhaul or she just needs to go away. I think that's not even a hot take. Some people will think it's a super hot take, but I do think that she has a playstyle that is just not inducive to fun play in Overwatch. The counterplay is not fun, and there's just too much. I agree. Widowmaker just needs to go. And then last one, Roman, stop typing. I need to stop this video. Last one. People shouldn't take this game seriously. Games like this are designed to be a big deathmatch and doesn't have the components necessarily to make a highly competitive game. They really need to steer away from balancing every character and trying to make everyone viable. Keeping your interesting characters top like Genji, Tracer, Sojourn, Curie, Ana, and Doom. Nerf everyone else. Add 10v10 servers. Make community-hosted servers possible. Steer away from competitive and perfectly balanced roles. Also, tank should always be the least powerful role. It is not fun, and there is only one skill-based tank, Doom. Whoa! Scalding. This is scalding. I agree. Not every character should be... The game should not be perfectly balanced. Perfectly balanced in a way that every character is as viable as the next character, right? The reason why that shouldn't exist is because I would much rather play a game with Tracer and Sojourn and Curie than have to play with a Widow or a Reaper or a Junkrat or something like that. Not fun. They are not engaging, right? Variety is always good, and a balance like that is good, but the trade-off is that these characters have to exist in the way, like Widow would have to be just as good as Tracer, and I cannot get behind that, right? Keep the high skill, interesting characters good, and the lower skilled ones, or hyper niche, very caricature-esque ones at the bottom. I agree with that. Adding 10v10 servers as a joke, that's fun. That'd be really silly, and as an extra game mode, nothing wrong with that. Make community servers, hosted servers possible. Is that not what custom game is? I mean, that's what custom games are. I assume you mean just kind of make them more... You could just queue into random things, maybe. Steer away from competitive and perfectly balanced rules. I don't think they should ignore competitive because I feel like there is a lot to engage with on the competitive level. But again, steering away from perfectly balanced roles, kind of a good idea, I think, right? It is really hard to stitch roles to be balanced, right? And balancing every character within the role. I think individual characters should be the focus, right? These are the characters we want to be better. These are the characters we don't want to be better. Oh, you mean I see what you mean. People need to be able to host their own servers, not just through Blizzard servers. Yeah, that'd be great. I don't think the engine even allows that. I can't lie. I don't know if the Overwatch engine allows that. I'm sure there's a way they could do it, but they probably, my guess is that they don't want that to happen because people will just go like, all right, let's go back to Overwatch 1 and never do anything again, right? Let's just stay here on this patch and everything. And we never have to. The thing is that they don't want to split the community too hard, right? Because this is not, we are not playing CSGO, we are not playing Valorant. We don't have the biggest player base ever. We still have a pretty big one, but we don't have the biggest one ever. And if it gets split up and fractured too much, then the experience for everybody is going to suffer. Or at least the experience for the people in the live game is going to suffer a little bit. Which I don't think is a great solution, but you are right. Like, it does suck that there aren't custom servers like that. Okay, and then the last one, tank should always be the least powerful role. I don't know if that's exactly true. I don't think there's any one role that should be the least powerful. As the fact that there's only one skill-based tank, that's just wrong. Winston, Junker Queen, Diva. I mean, there's skill to be found. Sigma. There's skill to be found in all of the tanks in some form or fashion. There's no skill-less characters. But there are definitely ones that are easier and more frustrating than others. Malga, Orisa, Roadhog, all of that. And again, I don't think there should just be like one role that is always not good or less powerful than the others. But yeah, right. If it's too overbearing, right, they should be like generally in the same like power level. But there can be like a little bit of discrepancy. If there's one that is just more powerful than everything else, no matter what role it's going to be, the game's not going to feel good. So, yeah, definitely this is a hot take, but I get where you're coming from. That's it. Thank you so much for everybody who sent in a hot take. Again, if you want to send me your own, that's going to be the Discord in the description below. If you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any of that good YouTube stuff. It does really help me out at the end of the day. And if you want to get in on this live, that is going to be twitch.tv/LaneHemingway. Try to do a discussion every single time I go live. It's going to be Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays is when I stream. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.